Angels in America, a gay fantasia on national themes, is a two-part play by American playwright Tony Kushner. The two parts of the play, Millennium Approaches and Perestroika, may be presented separately. The work won numerous awards, including the Pulitzer Prize for Drama, the Tony Award for Best Play, and the Drama Desk Award for Outstanding Play. Part 1 of the play premiered in 1991, followed by Part 2 in 1992. Its Broadway opening was in 1993. The play is a complex, often metaphorical, and at times symbolic examination of AIDS and homosexuality in the United States in the 1980s. Certain major and minor characters are supernatural beings, angels, or deceased persons' ghosts. The play contains multiple roles for several actors. Initially and primarily focusing on one gay and one straight couple in Manhattan, the plot has several additional storylines, some of which intersect occasionally. In 1994, playwright and professor of theater studies John M. Clum called the play a turning point in the history of gay drama, the history of American drama, and of American literary culture. 2. In 2003, HBO adapted Angels in America into a 6-episode miniseries of the same title. In the Sunday, June 25, 2006, edition of The Record, in an article headlined, "An AIDS Anniversary, 25 Years in the Arts," Bill Ervolino listed the miniseries among the 12 best filmed portrayals of AIDS to date. 3. In 2017, the play received a much-acclaimed West End revival that won the Laurence Olivier Award for Best Revival in 2018. Later that year the production transferred to Broadway, where it received 11 Tony Award nominations, the most ever received by a play at the time. It won 3 awards: Best Revival of a Play, Best Actor in a Leading Role in a Play, for Andrew Garfield, and Best Actor in a Featured Role in a Play, for Nathan Lane. Part 1. Millennium Approaches. Edit. Set in New York City, the play takes place between October 1985 and February 1986. 4. The play begins at a funeral, where an elderly rabbi eulogizes the deceased woman's entire generation of immigrants who risked their lives to build a community in the United States. Soon after, the deceased's grandson, Louis Ironson, learns that his lover Prior Walter, the last member of an old stock American family, has AIDS. As Prior's illness progresses, Louis becomes unable to cope, and he abandons Prior during a health episode that lands him in the hospital. Prior is given emotional support by their friend Belize, a hospital nurse and ex-drag queen, who separately also deals with Louis's self-castigating guilt and myriad excuses for leaving Prior. Joe Pitt, a Mormon Republican clerk in the same judge's office where Louis holds a word processing job, is offered a position in Washington, D.C. by his mentor, the McCarthyist lawyer and power broker Roy Cohn. Joe hesitates to accept due to his agoraphobic, Valium-addicted wife Harper, who refuses to relocate. Feeling adrift and undesired by Joe, Harper retreats into drug-fueled escapist fantasies, including a dream where she crosses paths with Prior even though the two of them have never met in the real world. She confronts Joe about his deeply closeted homosexuality, which he views as a sin. Torn by pressure from Roy and a burgeoning infatuation with Louis, Joe drunkenly comes out to his conservative mother Hannah, who reacts by changing the subject and hanging up the phone. Concerned for her son, she sells her house in Salt Lake City and travels to New York. After Joe confesses his homosexuality to a drug-addled Harper and leaves her, she flees their apartment and wandering the streets of Brooklyn, believing she is in Antarctica. Joe sets out to look for her, but follows Louis to Central Park, where they tentatively begin an affair. Meanwhile, Roy Cohn discovers that he has advanced AIDS and is dying. Defiantly refusing to publicly admit he is gay or has AIDS, Roy instead declares he has liver cancer. Facing disbarment for misappropriating money from a client, Roy is determined to beat the case so he can die a lawyer in good standing, and he attempts to position Joe in the Department of Justice to ensure the case is quashed. When Harper disappears and Joe refuses his offer, Roy flies into a rage and collapses in pain. As he awaits transport to the hospital, he is haunted by the ghost of Ethel Rosenberg, whom he prosecuted in her trial for espionage, and who was executed after Roy illegally lobbied the judge for the death penalty. Prior begins to experience intense dreams and visions as his health worsens. He hears the voice of an angel telling him to prepare for her arrival, a flaming book erupts from the floor during a medical checkup, and he receives visits from the ghosts of 2 ancestral Prior Walters, informing him that he is a divine prophet. Prior does not know if these visitations are hallucinations caused by an emotional breakdown or if they are real. At the end of Part 1, a glorious winged angel crashes through Prior's bedroom ceiling, addresses him as prophet, and proclaims that the great work has begun. Part 2. Perestroika. The play begins with a speech given by the world's oldest living Bolshevik, Alexei Antediluvianovich Prolapsarianov, addressing a crowd in Moscow in December 1985. He condemns the reforms proposed by Mikhail Gorbachev, decrying the notion of progress without political theory, and declaring that the only way forward is to not move. At the funeral of a friend, a shaken prior relates his encounter with the angel to Belize. After revealing the presence of a mystical book underneath the tile in Prior's kitchen, the angel reveals to him that heaven is a beautiful city that resembles San Francisco, and God, described as a great flaming Aleph, created the universe through copulation with his angels, who are all-knowing but unable to create or change on their own. God, bored with the angels, made mankind with the power to change and create. The progress of mankind on earth caused heaven to suffer earthquake-like tremors and physically deteriorate. Finally, on the day of the San Francisco earthquake in 1906, God abandoned heaven. The angel brings Prior a message for mankind: stop moving, in the belief that if man ceases to progress, heaven will be restored. Since the night of his vision, his health has once again started to decline. Belize believes that Prior is projecting his own fears of abandonment and death into an elaborate hallucination, but Prior suspects that his illness is the prophecy taking physical form, and that the only way the angel can force him to deliver her message is for him to die. Roy lands at the hospital in the care of Belize, where his condition rapidly declines. He manages to use his political clout to acquire a private stash of the experimental drug AZT, at the expense of withholding the drug from participants in a drug trial. Alone in the hospital and fighting disbarment, Roy finds himself increasingly isolated, with only Belize, who despises him, and the ghost of Ethel for company. Prior goes to a Mormon visitors center to research angels, where he meets Hannah, who is volunteering there and taking care of Harper, who has slowly returned to reality but is now deeply depressed. Harper and Prior share a spark of recognition from their earlier shared dream, and witness a vision of Joe and Lewis together. Lewis is aghast to learn that Joe is a practicing Mormon and, regretting his actions and resistant to the intensity of Joe's infatuation, begins to withdraw from Joe. He begs Prior's forgiveness, which Prior angrily refuses, and Prior, who knows about Lewis's affair with Joe from his vision, becomes deeply hurt that Lewis is attempting to move on. Joe visits Roy, who is near death, and receives a final, paternal blessing from his mentor. However, when Joe confesses he has left Harper for a man, Roy rejects him in a violent reaction of fear and rage, ordering him to return to his wife and cover up his indiscretion. Joe returns to Harper and they have an unsatisfying sexual encounter, which prompts Harper to realize their marriage is over. Prior, accompanied by Belize, jealously confronts a confused Joe at work, but the encounter descends into chaos when Belize recognizes Joe as Roy's protege. Belize informs Lewis about Joe's connection with Roy, whom Lewis despises. Lewis, as a result, researches Joe's legal history and confronts him over a series of hypocritical and homophobic decisions Joe himself wrote. The confrontation turns violent, and Joe punches Lewis in the face, ending their affair. Ethel Rosenberg watches Roy suffer and decline before delivering the final blow as he lies dying. He has been disbarred after all. Delirious, Roy seems to mistake Ethel for his mother, begging her to comfort him, and Ethel sings a Yiddish lullaby as Roy appears to pass away. However, with a sudden burst of energy, he reveals that he has tricked her, viciously declaring that he has finally beaten her. He then suffers a stroke and dies. After Roy's death, Belize forces Lewis to visit Roy's hospital room, where they steal his stash of AZT for Prior. Belize asks Lewis to recite the Kaddish for Roy. Unseen by the living, Ethel guides Lewis through the prayer, symbolically forgiving Roy before she departs for the hereafter. After his confrontation with Joe, Prior begins following him obsessively, neglecting his health. He collapses from pneumonia after following Joe to the Mormon Center and Hannah rushes him back to the hospital. Prior tells her about his vision and is surprised when Hannah accepts this, based on her belief in angelic revelations within Latter-day Saint theology. At the hospital, the angel reappears, enraged that Prior has rejected her message. Prior, on Hannah's advice, wrestles the angel, who relents and opens a ladder into heaven. Prior climbs into heaven and tells the council of angels that he refuses to deliver their message, as without progress, humanity will perish, and begs them for more life, no matter how horrible the prospect might be. He returns to his hospital bed, where he awakens from his vision with his fever broken and his health beginning to recover. He makes amends with Lewis, but refuses to take him back. Meanwhile, Harper departs New York for San Francisco, leaving Joe alone. The play concludes in 1990, 5 years later. Pryor and Lewis are still separated, but Lewis, along with Belize, remain close in order to support and care for Pryor, and Hannah has found new perspective on her rigid beliefs, forging a friendship with the three gay men. Pryor, Lewis, Belize, and Hannah gather before the angel statue in Bethesda Fountain, discussing the fall of the Soviet Union and what the future holds. Pryor talks of the legend of the Pool of Bethesda, where the sick were healed. Pryor delivers the play's final lines directly to the audience, blessing them and affirming his intentions to live on and telling them that the great work shall continue. The play is written for 8 actors, each of whom plays 2 or more roles. Kushner's doubling, as indicated in the published script, requires several of the actors to play different genders. Main characters. Pryor Walter, a gay man with AIDS. Throughout the play, he experiences various heavenly visions. When the play begins, he is dating Louis Ironson. His best friend is Belize. Louis Ironson, Pryor's boyfriend, unable to deal with Pryor's disease, he ultimately abandons him. He meets Joe Pitt and later begins a relationship with him. Harper Pitt, an agoraphobic Mormon housewife with incessant Valium-induced hallucinations. After a revelation from Pryor, whom she meets when his heavenly vision and her hallucination cross paths, she discovers that her husband, Joe, is gay and struggles with it, considering it a betrayal of her marriage. Joe Pitt, Harper's husband and a deeply closeted gay Mormon, clerk at the U.S. Court of Appeals, Second Circuit, and friend of Roy Cohn. Joe eventually abandons his wife for a relationship with Louis. Throughout the play, he struggles with his sexual identity. Roy Cohn, a close-setted gay lawyer, based on real-life Roy Cohn. Just as in history, it is eventually revealed that he has contracted HIV and the disease has progressed to AIDS, which he insists is liver cancer to preserve his reputation. Hannah Pitt, Joe's mother. She moves to New York after her son drunkenly comes out to her on the phone. She arrives to find that Joe has abandoned his wife. Belize, a nurse and former drag queen, he is Pryor's ex-boyfriend and best friend. He later becomes Roy Cohn's nurse. The angel, voice, a messenger from heaven who visits Pryor and tells him he is a prophet. Minor characters. Rabbi Isidore Chemowitz, an elderly Orthodox rabbi. He performs the funeral service for Louis's grandmother in Act 1 of Millennium Approaches and gives him advice on his situation with Pryor. Played by the actor playing Hannah. Mr. Lies, one of Harper's imaginary friends. A smooth-talking agent for the International Order of Travel Agents. Played by the actor playing Belize. Emily, Pryor's hospital nurse, a no-nonsense Italian-American. Played by the actor playing the angel. Henry, Roy Cohn's doctor, who diagnoses him with AIDS. Played by the actor playing Hannah. Martin Heller, a publicity agent to the Reagan administration's Justice Department and Roy's toady. Played by the actor playing Harper. Ethel Rosenberg, the ghost of a woman executed for being a communist spy. She haunts Roy, Wamsch blames for her conviction and execution, as he dies. Played by the actor playing Hannah. Pryor 1 and Pryor 2, the ghosts of 2 of Pryor Walter's ancestors. Pryor 1 is a gloomy Yorkshire farmer from the 13th century, Pryor 2 is a cheerful 17th century British aristocrat. They appear to Pryor to herald the angel's arrival. Played by the actors playing Joe and Roy, respectively. The Mon in the Park, a gay man Louis encounters while cruising for sex in Central Park. Played by the actor playing Pryor. Sister Ella Chapter, Hannah's realtor friend who helps her sell her house. Played by the actor playing the angel. A homeless woman, a crazed homeless woman Hannah encounters when she arrives in Brooklyn. Played by the actor playing the angel. The Eskimo, an imaginary friend in Harper's Antarctic hallucination. Played by the actor playing Joe. Alexei Antediluvianovich Prolapsarianov, the world's oldest living Bolshevik, whose speech in the opening of Perestroika sets up the theme of whether the world should continue to move forward. Played by the actor playing Hannah. Mormon family, Amanaquin family in the diorama room of the Mormon Visitors Center where Hannah and Harper volunteer. The father resembles Joe, and later becomes him in Harper's delusions. He is played by the actor playing Joe. The mother comes to life in Harper's imagination and speaks to her. She is played by the actor playing the angel. The 2 sons, Caleb and Orrin, are voiced off stage by the actors playing Belize and the angel respectively. The continental principalities the angel council Pryor confronts in heaven. They are in charge of both heaven and earth after God's desertion. They are the Angels: Europa, played by the actor playing Joe; Africani, played by the actor playing Harper; Oceania, played by the actor playing Belize; Asiatica, played by the actor playing Hannah; Australia, played by the actor playing Lewis; and Antarctica, played by the actor playing Roy. Kushner prefers that the theatricality be transparent. In his notes about staging, he writes, "The plays benefit from a pared-down style of presentation, with scenery kept to an evocative and informative minimum. Opening square bracket ... closing square bracket. I recommend rapid scene shifts, no blackouts, employing the cast as well as stagehands in shifting the scene. This must be an actor-driven event. Opening square bracket ... closing square bracket. The moments of magic are to be fully imagined and realized, as wonderful theatrical illusions, which means it's okay if the wires show, and maybe it's good that they do." Citation needed. Kushner is an admirer of Bertolt Brecht, who practiced a style of theatrical production whereby audiences were often reminded that they were in a theater. The choice to have no blackouts allows audiences to participate in the construction of a malleable theatrical world. Citation needed. One of the many theatrical devices in Angels is that each of the 8 main actors has one or several other minor roles in the play. For example, the actor playing the nurse, Emily, also plays the angel, Sister Ella Chapter, a real estate agent, and a homeless woman. This doubling and tripling of roles encourages the audience to consider the elasticity of, for example, gender and sexual identities. Angels in America received numerous awards, including the 1993 and 1994 Tony Awards for Best Play. The play's first part, Millennium Approaches, received the 1993 Pulitzer Prize for Drama. The play garnered much praise upon its release for its dialogue and exploration of social issues. Mr. Kushner has written the most thrilling American play in years, wrote the New York Times. 38. A decade after the play's premiere, Metro Weekly labeled it one of the most important pieces of theater to come out of the late 20th century. 39. By contrast, in an essay titled Angels in America, the cultural critic Lee Siegel wrote in the New Republic, "Angels in America is a second-rate play written by a second-rate playwright who happens to be gay, and because he has written a play about being gay, and about AIDS, no one, and I mean no one, is going to call Angels in America the overwrought, coarse, posturing, formulaic mess that it is." 40. In his 1995 book Homos, literary critic and queer theorist Leo Bersani called Angels in America a muddled and pretentious play, whose enormous success is a sign, if we need still another one, of how ready and anxious America is to see and hear about gays, provided we reassure America how familiar, how morally sincere, and, particularly in the case of Kushner's work, how innocuously full of significance we can be. 41. Controversy. In response to the frank treatment of homosexuality and AIDS, and brief male nudity, the play quickly became subject to controversial reaction from conservative and religious groups, sometimes labeled as being part of the culture war. 42. In Charlotte, North Carolina, in 1996, there were protests held outside a production of the play by the Charlotte Repertory Theater at the North Carolina Blumenthal Performing Arts Center. 43-44. This led to funding cuts for the Arts and Science Council of Charlotte, the city's arts funding agency, in the following year. 45-46. A 1999 production at Kilgore College, a community college in Kilgore, Texas, sparked protests from area and national homophobic groups and led to the town's mayor and commissioners pulling funds for the Texas Shakespeare Festival, which the production's director also ran. Kushner wrote a letter of support to the cast and crew, and the production did go forward. 47-48.